And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast. This week, we'll be previewing the 2020 Rocket Mortgage Classic. In order to do so, you can find me on Twitter at BDentric and my co-host, as always, on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. Jesse, how we doing, man?
Doing well, dude. How you doing?
We're doing well. We're live again, Jesse. For those that don't know, we used to do YouTube all the time. We're back.
Yeah. Google took away our Hangouts, which was very easy to use, and so Bubba got us hooked back up with something else, and so this will be cool, man. It actually looks better than what YouTube was too.
Yes, it actually does look a lot better. It took me like 3 clicks, so it just shows you that if I can do it, anyone can do it. But we do have some golf that took place over the weekend at the Travelers. It was pretty interesting. DJ takes down another one. It's been a while. Brendon Todd made me feel more like a normal golfer on the 12th hole. I felt for him. We've been there before. Yeah. But what do you have takeaways from the weekend? Because it was pure carnage overall.
Yeah, especially with, I was at a member guest tournament all weekend, and rain cut it short, so I got home and was able to watch most of the Sunday coverage, but I fell asleep and woke up, and when they said that Brendon Todd, who I actually had in some lineups and needed him to do well, took 6 to get on the green or whatever. Yeah. So I didn't really, pay a whole hell of a lot of attention to this week. Other than, DJ is DJ still. I don't think anybody in their right mind really thought that he was done. Seen some stuff like that on Twitter, but nobody ever really thought DJ was done. He was just, it's kind of what he does, man. He's up and down. He got it figured out and got the putter rolling, and had a wonderful weekend, 61, 67, and 67 was all he needed. Now, I thought he had a bit of potential for a collapse there when he jerked that one out of bounds on 13, which was right after the hole that Brendon Todd tripled. But, dude, the dude's so good. He basically hits one out of bounds and still makes a bogey. That's a double or triple for anybody else.
Easily.
Yeah. So, he made a fucking super long putt. Not super long. It was 7 feet. But, 7 feet for bogey when you're leading the tournament, it's a pretty long putt. And he just drains it. It broke. It was a breaker. And anyway, pretty weird leaderboard, dude. Your boy Ryan Armour was up there, though.
Yeah, back-to-back weeks talking up Armour. Of course, did I play him? No. Probably play him this week. We all know how that ends up going. So, that's going to be the fun of that one. But it was just a weird week. Man, we see so many missed cuts. Like, I think 6 of 6 was less than 2%.
Yeah.
Give or take. I know I had a 3 of 6 that bubbled. That just explains to you exactly the craziness that took place there. We saw some guys do very, very well this past week, and other guys I know was one of my overall just disastrous deals. So overall, interesting week, but I wouldn't say we were off. We were definitely on the right path. Just there were some guys that missed the cuts that were just, what the heck just happened out there. Any final takeaways from it? It was good golf. It was just a very weird deal.
Yeah, I like that golf course. I forget about it, and then, of course, until the week that it comes along. But, yeah, Bubba missed the cut on the number. Tony Fein missed the cut on the number. Woodland, was kind of close, but not really. 2 shots out there. And who else? Rose.
Yeah, Rose goes right? 4 over on Friday to miss the cut. It was some ultimate trunk slams on Friday. I left Thursday feeling very good about life. Yeah, JT. It was
2
weird.
over par for the weekend. Strange week, but you're gonna have that, and I got a feeling this week's gonna be even worse, though.
It's gonna be much worse. When we break down the field, it is a slightly better than Korn Ferry event. Bryson Webb's there, and then a bunch of recent Korn Ferry grads and a Korn Ferry field. Basically, there's obviously better players, but there's that feel in the air. So. One other thing I just wanted to ask you, and we don't have to talk deep about it. I know we love watching golf on TV, and Fox does a great job of showing golf, which is what we want. And now Fox doesn't have the U.S. Open. It's out of our control. We're going to watch it regardless. But the fact NBC has it doesn't excite me. Better than CBS. But what's your thoughts on Fox essentially giving up the U.S. Open in my mind.
Yeah, I don't know what's behind that decision, but it sucks. Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I like to watch their coverage. I thought they did a good job and told the stories well or whatever, and showed a lot of golf. So hopefully NBC will be able to do the same, but we'll see. I mean, I don't know. Did they have it before? Did NBC have it before Fox?
I think so.
Can't remember, man. That was so long ago. But Fox spoiled us.
Yeah.
They also did a really good job with the women's U.S. Open, the USAM, and stuff like that too. So I don't know why. The only thing I could figure out was there's some kind of dispute with the U.S. Open this year being in September, right?
Yeah.
So football will be going on.
That makes sense. You're right there. I didn't even put that together. I haven't even heard that argument. That makes too much sense. So
I mean, that's their cash cow. You know, they're not going to give up football because I think what I saw was they were wanting to move the U.S. Open to FS1.
Oh, okay. And the PGA Tour probably said no.
Right. They're not willing to take a back seat.
Yeah, that makes sense. So
I guess nobody wanted to be flexible with it, or at least the PGA didn't want to be flexible with it this year. Because, I mean, it would go back to Fox Sports, Fox next year. But whatever. That's over and done with. What are you going to do?
Yep. What are we going to do? We know what we are going to do. We're going to talk about the Rocket Mortgage Classic, which last year was an absolute birdie fest. We have 1 year past history. Would you like to tell us all about it?
Yeah, this is going to be short. Nate Lashley was your 2019 champion, 25 under par, 6 shots over Doc Redman, won $1.3 million last year.
Yeah, and he Monday qualified.
That's right. I forgot about that, dude.
Yeah, that was big. He Monday qualified. Yeah, you talk about – we're going to have a weird leaderboard this week in general, but last year, Lashley, Redman, Sabbatini, Roach, Neiman, Stuard, Potter, Sneds, Reed, Tringali is your top 10. That is just oozing of top talent.
This was last year. This was 2 weeks after the U.S. Open. I don't know what the tournament was right after the U.S. Open, but so I'm sure guys were taking a little bit of time off there. Plus, no offense if anybody lives in Detroit, but it is Detroit.
Yeah, it is. But
it's not like Georgia on the coast, or I mean, so
it's an out of the kind of way type thing. That's why a lot of guys aren't there this week. They stayed on the East Coast, did the Florida, went up to the Boston, Massachusetts area up there somewhere. They're not going to go to Detroit just to have to come to Ohio. They're going to just kind of take their time, take the week off to rest. Yeah. 2 weekends in a row at Jack's place. Like, they're going to do that. So that's why we're seeing the strength of field. And sometimes I love these fields because you get a bunch of these young guys. It's a birdie fest. It's cool to see some people don't know about. At the same time, it's going to be an ultra tilting because when we talk about the course here, it's the Detroit Golf Club. It's a Donald Ross design. You hear Pete Dye, you hear Donald Ross. Those are like the two big dogs when it comes to golf design. It's a little longer than normal. It's a par 72, 7,340 yards. We haven't seen that in the last few weeks, but don't worry. Don't worry at all. It's pretty wide open. There are some trees out there, but it was one of the most commonly hit fairways in all the tour. Guys were launching it. It was turned into an iron/wedge fest, birdie fest. If you can putt this week, you're going to put up birdies. As you said, Lashley 25 under, Redmond 19 under. It's a race to see who can score a lot. There's 4 par 5s. We haven't seen that in a while. 2 of them are very, very gettable. Eagle rates close to 3% on holes 7 and 17. So if you look at par 5 scoring, that's going to be huge this week. Approach game is going to be big, and just putting. Bent grass greens, they say there's a little bit of POA, but this is much more bent than last week. Last week was a kind of a POA bent mix. This is pretty much a bent grass green situation here. So that's what I'm looking at when we get in that mix. And then the only other thing I have, because it's a pretty straightforward golf course. I remember watching it a little bit last year. They don't make you think too much like we've seen in recent weeks. Like Bryson is going to be really fun to watch because you can almost just let it rip and go crazy at this thing and wedge it in. And some of these other guys, that's why I think the Korn Ferry guys do well, because a lot of these young guys can bomb it, and they're used to just birdie festing it. So that's why we looked at last year's leaderboard. It made sense. We do have 2 listener questions this week, and they're from the Slack chat. We didn't promote listener questions. Maybe we will in the future. But if you go to the Slack chat, it's free. Just ask us to join. Dirework had the first one, and he mentioned it's been talked about because it was such a scoring fest last week. And they didn't alter the course a ton, Jesse. But what they did do is they grew the rough out a little bit to narrow the fairways a tad, and they're going to grow them to like 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, which to me isn't going to affect these guys a whole lot. What do you think? Are you going to factor that in at all when it comes to like off the tee or anything like that?
I think he was talking about something that Josh Culp, is it Culp?
Yeah.
Tweeted out, and instead of 3.5 inch rough, they're going to have 4 inch rough.
Okay, gotcha.
So basically, it's going to be a half inch, taller. And the real question was, do you think that's going to make any difference? I don't. I mean, I'm not going to worry about accuracy more than I would, especially on a golf course at 7,300 yards. I still want guys who can get it out there, and so. No, for me, it's not going to matter. I think it'll play very similar to what it did last year. It was basically the same weekend. And so I think conditions, obviously depending on the weather, rain, wind, that kind of thing could alter things. But as far as the conditions on the golf course, grass and all that kind of stuff, it should be very, very similar. And I wouldn't really change my mindset on just a half inch of rough.
Yeah, like a warm Detroit day, it shouldn't matter a lot. And I said these fairways are huge. These guys are piping it all over the place and just doing their thing. It's fun to watch if you like a lot of scoring. If you're sweating on Friday for like a -6 cut line, that's stressful. Like personally, I prefer like an even -1 cut line. It's a little less stressful. But when it comes to DK scoring, there's going to be a lot of points. The winning lineup this week might be in like the 700s. It's going to be it's going to feel like a WGC almost if you have that 6 of 6. It'll be a lot of points up there. Before we get started, FanShare Sports, we talked about it. They are free until June 30th. That is Tuesday. If you're listening on Tuesday, that is that day. That's tomorrow. So you have one more day for FanShare Pro for free. Otherwise, use promo code ALWAYSPRESS, all lowercase, one word, ALWAYSPRESS, 20% off the package of your choice. Couple quick things here on FanShare. If you just look at a couple goodies, last 10 events on Donald Rostov Zines. A lot of these guys haven't played a ton of those. Like JT Poston plays well, Sabbatini, Vic Hovland's played the last two, Stuard, Wes Roach. Not a ton of guys have played those because usually the main ones are part of the FedEx Cup finals, or the third event in the finals are the Windham and the Eastlake are 2 Donald Ross courses. So not a lot of these guys have made it that far just yet. But when you look at par 72 courses, 7,200 to 7,400 yards, which this falls into, last 10 events when it comes to DraftKings scoring, Pat Reed leads the field at almost 90 points. Then Fowler, Matsuyama, Brandt Snedeker, Tony Finau rank up top there. Sepp Straka plays well at these, and so does one DJ Trahan. So something to think about there if you want to get really weird. But up top, you got guys that have played pretty well at these events. Also, last 10 events on bent grass greens. Matsuyama, of all people, who seems to tilt me with the putter, leads the field in the last 10 events, almost over 90 points. Pat Reed, again, up top. Lucas Glover, Finau is up there yet again. You guys like Matty Wolf, Victor Hovland, Adam Hadwin, Webb Simpson, and Sunjay M. And then last but not least, since it's technically free till the 30th, I'll give this one out there. Their special course suitability ranking. There's some odd names this week, Jesse. There's some very odd names that I don't know if I feel comfortable with. Number 1 on the list is Adam Schenk, who we've been on once in a while. But the number 2 is Finau. I can see that. Number 3, though, I'll just tell you this much, I'm not playing him. If he plays well this week, I'm going to be really ticked off. But Ricky Barnes is number 3. Then it goes Sungjae M and Brandt Snedeker to ramp out the top 5. So 4 out of the 5 I can kind of sleep with because at least Schenk 6,700. Okay, we'll see what happens. Ricky Barnes, there's no chance. Not a chance. I'm putting that one out there. I guess nope, not gonna do it. Not gonna do it. So that'll wrap up our FanShare. Again, always press one word, 20% off. Jesse, let's do some DraftKings picks for the week. 10K and above. Again, this is gonna be a tough week. For last week we talked stars and scrubs. Not nearly as comfortable this week, but the stars this week: Bryson at 11.7, Webb at 11,000, Hatton at 10.7, Pat Reed at 10.5. Had a nice Sunday, I think 6 under. Matsuyama 10.2 and Victor Hovland at $10,000. Where are you going up here this week, Jesse?
Let's start up top with Bryson. I think there's a couple different ways to look at Bryson. Obviously, the price tag is much higher, so 11,700. Not used to paying that, but it's been creeping up, and the reason is because he has 6 straight top 10s, which is pretty incredible. I think over since the PGA Tour came back, he's the most under par golfer on tour in the last 3 events. And he's never played here, but this is what you would think where he would be successful. Just bomb it the fuck out there and go for a lot of these par 5s, which the par 5s are basically the easiest holes on the golf course. And this week we have 4. The last couple of weeks we've had 2 or 3, right? I mean, it's not been as many
par
par
70s, par 71. So yeah,
and all 3 of these par 5s are playing under par. I mean, there's one that's 634 yards, but it's still playing in a 4.75. So they're mostly playing around 4.5. So they're very gettable, and that's where kind of Bryson thrives. Is getting the. I mean, his short game is not the best, but if he can get it out there and then get on the green or around the green, he at least has a really good chance to get up and down because he is a professional golfer. So I like Bryson a lot. I don't think that will be a unpopular opinion this week. I think a lot of people will like Bryson, and I think it's rightfully so. But what I'm saying is I don't know that a lot of people will want to pay up, especially once we get down to these, like you already mentioned, stars and scrubs this week is going to be a little bit more difficult. So if you can fit Bryson into a lineup, feel comfortable with it or whatever, I like starting there myself. I think Webb's fine. I guess he doesn't have Corona for sure. Obviously coming off the win. Terrell Hatton, I'll play him at 10,700. He's not played here, but third at the Heritage and first at the Arnold Palmer. I'll let you talk about Reed if you want to. And then Hideki, man. So he played here last year. He finished 13th, coming off a missed cut at the Heritage. I hope that depresses a little bit of his ownership maybe. I was just kind of looking at some stats from last year, and he actually hit it pretty well around here. And then Victor Hovland is fine too. I think they're all fine. If you want to touch on Reed, go ahead. My favorite is Bryson, and then Hideki would be my second favorite.
Yeah, Bryson is the obvious awesome play with a bullet. Like I was joking around, he should be like 13,000 this week. In this field, he's just far and away like the top of the class. He might not win because it's golf, but in reality, he should be the heavy favorite in this event. And if you can afford him, like you said, do it. Like I don't care how chalky he is. Like you'll be different elsewhere by having to go down below 6 in the 6Ks. So Bryson, phenomenal play. That's easy stuff. You didn't need to listen to the podcast to know that. But I agree the Hatton play could be interesting. Could be a nice lower owned play. Didn't play last week, third the week before at the Heritage. He's playing really good golf this year. Patty Reed, good old taco boy. 5th place here last year, 24th last week, and he had a big Sunday. I think 6 under par, finished around 11 or 12 under overall. He had a horrible Thursday where he just couldn't putt, and that's been his thing. The week before when he missed the cut at the Heritage, couldn't putt. Finished 7th the week before that at the Charles Schwab where he could putt. And obviously this week you need to be able to putt, and if you putt lights out, you're going to put up tons of birdies. So Reed's always in play for me in GPPs and maybe even in cash. It's harder at 10-5. I'm not as nearly in, like when he's been in the 8Ks, it's been nearly automatic for me to plug in Patrick Reed. It's a lot harder at 10-5 for me. I'd rather almost go up to Hatton at 10-7 or go down to Hovland at 10,000. The only problem I have with Hovland, and it's just a petty thing to see how it works, but I think he's going to be super chalky in this range. Yeah. I think a lot of people are going to want to save money, and they're like, you know what, if I got to go pay for a 5-figure guy, Hovland's my guy. And that's the problem I have. 13th here last year, coming off an 11th last week. And that was after a really bad Sunday. He started out on fire. I think he was like 4 under through 6, and then he ended up on like 2 under on the day or something. He could have really made a top 5 type run if he got it together. But, nothing worse than T23 since the return of golf. I like Hovland a lot, and that's not saying much. So Bryson's the man up here, no doubt. Hovland's a great play, but likely chalk. I think Hatton's a nice GPP pivot as well. All right, 9K range. You got Sanjay at 98. Nice bounce back last week. At least he made the cut. Didn't really finish well, but made the cut after missing the cut the week before. Ricky Fowler looking for that first made cut since the return of golf. Tony Finau at 93. Bubba at 92. Na at 91. And Scotty Schaeffler at 9,000. Quite the names that are playing some very inconsistent golf right here, Jesse. Who do you like?
Sanjay, obviously, he's just an absolute cut maker. I mean, he's not playing like his best, but he did finish 21st here last year. 58th last week. I really think it's just a matter of him getting the putter going. Whenever he was having a lot of success before the break, he was putting better. So we'll see about that. And we talk about every week how unpredictable that is. So I'll bank on him figuring that out at some point and keep playing him. Tony Finau at 9,300. Again, this should shoot suit Tony's game. Last week his putter was atrocious and he couldn't scramble, and that's why he missed the cut. Of course, it was a birdie fest. Now, last year here it was a 4-under cut as well, so keep that in mind. You got to have dudes who make a shit ton of birdies. And then Scotty Schaeffler at 9,000. Dude makes a lot of birdies. He missed the cut last week on the number, so he shot, I guess, 300 for the week, and he played okay. He hadn't played since the Charles Schwab, so we'll see. But 9,000, I think, is totally fine for him in this field. So those would be my 3 that I would harp on in that region.
Yeah, Sanjay, I'm 100% with you on that one. In a field like this, we talked about maybe some of his issues before was these kind of goofy holes, the way visually Pete Dye type stuff, and maybe that affects him a bit. Well, we're back to wide open, grip it, rip it, go get birdies, and Sanjay does that very, very well. So he can pen seek with the best of them. No problem with Sungjae at 98. Finau at 93 I like as well. I can see a lot of lineups for people starting out Hovland, Finau really easily. So I'll have to keep an eye on that. But I think Finau, like you said, didn't play here last year. But this course, the way he can play, should just play right into his wheelhouse. So I like him quite a bit. And then Kevin Na is a guy that has my attention. Didn't play here last year. 5th place last week. Another guy, if we're talking good iron approach type game and you could get a hot putter from time to time, Kevin Na, we could fit that mold pretty darn easily. I've been a Na fan often, so I have no problem going to Kevin Na at 91. Likely comes in under-owned because I think Scotty Schaeffler will be popular, and rightfully so as a birdie maker. Finau at 93. I think Kevin Na at 91 could be quite an interesting lower-owned play in this 9K range. All right, 8K range. You got Sabbatini 88, Poston 87 off a disappointing missed cut. Jason Day at 86, Redmond all the way up to 85. There's some interesting price bumps this week. Glover 84, Bezenhout 83, Hadwin 82, RCB 81, and EVR at 8,000. What do you like in the 8K range?
So Sabs, Rory Sabbatini finished 3rd here last year. A couple made cuts since the break was over with or whatever. So I think he's fine. I do think his name will get thrown around a little bit. Poston as well, coming off the miscut, I like him a little bit better just because he did finish 11th here last year, and he did miss the cut last week. So I mean, his ownership wasn't super high last week, 7% owned, but with Poston, with Sabatini, Day, Doc Redmond, right there. I know Doc will get touted quite a bit. He finished 2nd here last year. I heard his name being thrown around quite a bit last week, and he finished 11th. Nice little Sunday 63 to come in and finish in 11th there. And then 21st, the week before that, at the Heritage, Charles Schwab 58. So, he's just improving every week. I think Doc's fine, but just know if you play Doc Redmond, he's probably going to be a little bit chalky. Lucas Glover, funny story about Lucas Glover. I was anti-Lucas Glover last week. I don't know if you remember. Somebody posted some lineups in the Slack, and I got to apologize. They're like, that dude, I just sent him an invite to get into the Slack chat. He sends those lineups. I didn't go back and look and see if I completely ruined his year or not, but he had Glover in one. I was like, I wouldn't play Glover. His course history was whack. He was he had 75,000 straight missed cuts, and he come out and shot 66 on Friday. I was like, Thursday, I was like, oh my God, dude, let's not do this. Let's not do this, Lucas. And then he makes the cut, and then he fires 63 on Sunday to finish 20th. So I apologize to that guy. We all said Harry Higgs in there, and he's like, all right, make the switch. And Harry, of course, misses the fucking cut. So Lucas Glover, I think he's okay. Hadwin at 8,200, never played here. Might be a little bit overpriced on Adam, but in this field, 2 straight basically 40th place finishes since the breaks come back. So really my kind of pivots here would be Poston and Glover off of Redmond and Sabatini, but I think all 4 of those guys are okay. You willing to play Jason Day 4 weeks in a row?
Nope, I never play Jason Day any period. Him, Ricky Fowler, those are the guys that I know they'll finish well one of these days. They might even win. I'll never be on them. They're just so for the amount of chalk you end up paying for at least Ricky, not Day as much. It's just so tilting because I get it. Their talent level's there, but they're broken right now.
Yeah, Day did make the cut.
Yeah, and he finished 46th. I know it counts when we had a bunch of 6-6 less than 2%. I get it, but it's just like Phil Mickelson was $6,900 last week, and we weren't on that train either.
Talk about tilt though. No, I played. I played Phil the week before. The last week he played and he missed the cut, and it's just a fucking running thing with this dude that I always talk with every single week about playing Phil, because if we play him, he misses the cut, and if we don't, then he fucking does what he did. When I saw he was 36 hole leader, I was so fucking pissed.
Yeah, you had to know it was coming to an end though. Like I really think what it was is he was playing with Rory and Bryson the first 2 days, and all he wanted to do was hit bombs.
Dude, that was a great group.
Phenomenal, because you got two guys that are like young and at the peak of their game. Then you got Phil at 50 years old trying to hit bombs, trying to keep up with these guys. It's perfect. It's the perfect.
It was fun to watch. I mean, they were taking some hacks at it.
Yeah, and that's what's fun about these guys playing in fields we've never seen them play them before, because these guys don't play these courses, and now they're just making it so much fun. It's like video game stuff for Bryson. But 8K range for me. Sabbatini, I'm 100% on. I am afraid he's gonna be a little popular this week, but third here last year, like you said. Didn't play last week, but then 21st, 14th, very good iron player, good approach type game. So I do like Sabbatini at 88. Poston missing the cut, 87. I'm hoping that deters people, because I'll be right back on that train. 11th here last year, 8th and 10th. Talk about a guy that can just stripe it down the fairway, wedge things in. If his putter gets going, he can have another nice week here. So I think Poston 87 is one I'm all about. You're right. Redmond's going to be popular. It might be good chalk, but I don't know. It's pick your poison. He's going to be a really good play. I think he makes the cut. Like cash games, I'd be cool with it. GPP, there might be pivots like Poston and Glover. I'm with you on Glover. 20th, 21st, 23rd since the return of golf, playing phenomenal. He was playing pretty good even in the fall swing and everything. So he's picked things up. 8,400 is a little steep for Lucas, but it is the field after all. So I think he's a good GPP pivot off of Redmond, like you were talking about. And then other than that, like Hadwin, I can kind of see in cash if you want. I don't think he's going to contend, because I don't know if he's got that many birdies in him. I mean, I know he does when he plays like La Quinta in California, but I don't know if he's got him in him here. But to make the cut and stuff, I could see Hadwin being there. RCB is a GPP player I like at $8,100. He can be inconsistent off the tee, but this course doesn't penalize you as much for being inconsistent off the tee, and he has phenomenal iron play. So I think our RCB at 81 could be a very interesting play in this lower 8K range. All right, 7K now. Now it starts to get fun, Jesse. 7,500 and above. Who you liking?
So up top with Brandt Snedeker there at 7,900. Finished 5th here last year. Coming off a made cut at the Travelers Championship. I think we mentioned him a couple weeks ago that we didn't even realize he was in the field. So I think Brandt's fine at 7,900. Alex Noren, I think he's interesting. 21st. At the Heritage, didn't play last week, but 60th. So at the Charles Schwab, so 2 straight made cuts since the break ended. And if he gets the irons going, he can get real hot. Maverick McNeely, big fan this week. The dude is just murders par fives. In his last 2 events, he's 12 under par on the par fives, and that's the Heritage and Charles Schwab. I can't remember what the par at Charles Schwab was, but at the Heritage. There was 2 par fives?
2 par fives, yeah.
Yeah, and he's 600 on those par fives for the week, which is pretty good. When you get 8 tries, you make 6 birdies, I guess. Right?
Yeah, that's good math.
And double check myself there. Joseph Bramlett at 7,500. So didn't play here last year. I mentioned him last week. He had been playing well on the Corn Ferry. He made the cut last week, finished 41st. Played the par fives well last week as well. Accuracy's there, but he's also, he's also can get it out there. He averaged 304 off the tee last week, and was next to not owned. So 7,500, I think he's fine. Dude, I had so many flashbacks last week with like Scott Stallings on the leaderboard,
yep.
And then Brendon Todd, and then who was but Scott Stallings, I don't know, man. He's so up and down. I want to click his name, but at the same time I don't. So I don't know.
Yeah, I'm with you. I had Stallings written down. It's like, man, I could see it. A guy that can bomb it the way he can, but it's Scott Stallings. Like which one's he's 64th here last year, but you saw what he did last week. Given he likes POA, so maybe there's something to it there for his putting. But I could see like in a GPP if you're like doing 20 max, sprinkle some Stallings. I could see that. I could definitely see that. I had him down. Brendon Todd, you hit on it there. It's like I think he was contending, and then people saw kind of the collapse on Sunday. He might not like for all the price increases we saw this week. To see Todd at 78 kind of surprised me. It makes me want to play Brendon Todd, but I'm also like timid to play Brendon Todd. Do you see yourself with any Brendon Todd?
Well, so I mean, I don't. He's not a long hitter, right? So he's not really hitting it that far off the tee. But if you look at guys like Sneds, last year he averaged 293 off the tee, and another guy who I'm going to talk about here in a second, Brian Stuard, who finished fifth here, he averaged 289 off the tee. So it's not like you have to, hit bombs. What Lashley? What did he average last year? But wait, didn't Lashley win this last year?
He won this last year, yes. 25 under.
Well, whatever. For whatever reason, it's not pulling up. But, everybody thinks it's a bomber's paradise or whatever. But there are some guys who had success here last year because I'm assuming their putters just got absolutely red hot.
Yeah. Well, I think I saw somewhere like the top 20 finishers last week all are like heavily positive in strokes gained putting. So it's just hit the greens and run hot. That's pretty much what it comes down to this week. And it makes it fun, but also tilting for your DraftKings lineups. Very tilting because you look at the app on Thursday and Friday and second shot in within 8 feet, any 2 putts for par over and over again. And trust me, that was my last week. So I'm used to that by now, but that's where we're at. So I had to ask about Todd. I do agree Noren can be interesting at 78, a guy that at that price point we know can finish higher than his price point dictates. He's not sexy by any means, but he's got some upside there. I love McNeely. I love the cut-making ability of McNeely, the scoring ability of McNeely. I think at $7,600, he's a phenomenal play in this range. I think you can do really, really well with him. And then I had Bramlett written down. We have a lot of similar guys here. I was with you on Bramlett last week. The second, the third place finishes back-to-back on the Korn Ferry Tour. Got into the tournament last week, finished 41st. But another guy, like you said, he can stripe it. He can make birdies and bunches. I think Bramlett at 75 could be a nice upside play as well.
So I found Lashley off the tee last year. He averaged 299 at this event.
Okay, so close to 300.
Yeah, en route to his win. So he also scored 142 DraftKings points.
That's what I'm saying. This week, with the way it's going to be a birdie fest and maybe eagle fest on the par fives, scoring is going to be like in the 700s if you have a 6 or 6 to win this thing. It's going to be bananas.
Could be.
Let's talk 7,400 to 7,000. Lots of names here. This could be one way that you differentiate taking chalk high, get weird down here with ownership. Will Gordon's probably going to be popular for obvious reasons. Brian Stewart's probably going to be popular for obvious reasons. What are some guys you're looking at down here?
Yeah, Brian Stuard for sure. 7,400, finished fifth here last year. Has made all three of the cuts that he's played in since the break. So 43rd, Charles Schwab, 52nd, Heritage, 20th at the Travelers. Hit a bunch of greens last week, all rounds under par, and the putter really wasn't that great. So, maybe he can figure something out with the putter this week and get hot. Wes Roach at 7,300. So he finished third here last year. Missed the cut his last time out at the Honda Classic. I don't know if he's been playing on the Korn Ferry. Do you have?
Yeah, he had fifth 2 weeks ago.
Okay. So just looking at some course history stats that I look at, I mean, obviously finishing third, you're going to have some good stats for 4 rounds for the most part. So anyways, I think he's interesting as a pivot off of Will Gordon. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Will Gordon, but basically, right, he had to get inside the top 3 in order to get
into this field,
and then get some other exemptions potentially down the road. So I'm not super familiar with the guy. He's been playing a little bit on tour. He finished third last week. He played the Puerto Rico Open. He finished 20th. He finished 21st at the Farmers Insurance Open earlier this year. Missed the cut at the Sony. Made some other cuts back in the fall. Missed one cut to Sanderson. So the guy's played on tour. It's not like he's not been on tour. Has he been playing mostly on the Korn Ferry? Do you have Korn Ferry stats, or do you have?
I don't have any. Finishes? He hasn't played since it returned. But the thing I heard about Will Gordon, and I'll say I heard it on the No Laying Up recap today. I didn't realize it. He came out the same time as Morikawa, Hovland, and all those guys, and he was ranked right behind them, who got those like automatic bids to get, like, they were the ones they were the first calls to fill spots in tournaments. So he always had to wait for one of them to back out or someone else. So he's in that talent level, maybe just slightly below that talent level. So that's why we're seeing the performance we're seeing. And he was interviewed saying he gets X amount of sponsors exemptions each year. He didn't want to have to use one this week, so finishing third got him in, obviously. But he's one of those guys that he's got more talent than I think people realize, because if you think about right behind Hovland and Morikawa and that grouping, that's pretty elite company, as we've seen now. Wolf and all them. So, yeah.
Morikawa, by the way, missed his first PGA Tour cut.
And he took the week off. I was really hoping to play the bounce back Morikawa at a place like this. I think he could have a field day, and he's taking the week off.
Yeah, I don't blame him, though. So I think Will Gordon's fine. Obviously his ownership is not going to be the 0% that it was. I mean, it was 0.5% at 6,200 this past week. Who the fuck's playing Will Gordon? So you're going to get a major ownership bump on him. Kyle Stanley at 7,100. He finished 21st here last year, coming off a made cut last week after a couple missed cuts before that. So finished 24th all rounds was the par last week 70 or was it 71?
70, I believe. Yeah.
I just have it in my mind that it was 71. So
it might have been 71 the week before. Might have been 70. I'm totally spacing right now. Actually, I have it right here. Give me 2 seconds. Let me just flip back my handy computer notes here.
All these damn Pete Dye courses run together. Yeah,
it was par 70 last week, 71 the week before.
So he shot 3 rounds under par, and then Sunday he finished even par. So I think Kyle Stanley's fine. If his ball striking gets going, then he can be interesting. Sebastian Munoz, 7,100, missed the cut here last year, coming off a missed cut. He's a GPP play. Peter Uihlein, so he missed the cut here last year, coming off a 14th place finish his last time out, the Charles Schwab. Do you have any Korn Ferry starts for him?
Didn't play last week before 32nd.
Okay. I mean, just his talent is better than what he has shown. And if he can get it going, now's the time to jump on. The dude bombs it. Pretty sure his dad runs Titleist or something. I don't know. T Dunks, your boy at 7,000. Yes. Missed cut last week. I picked him up in our season long.
Oh, he made the cut last week. Finished 32nd.
Missed the cut last year.
Oh, okay.
At this tournament. Made the cut last week, like you said. Made the cut at the Heritage. Made the cut at Charles Schwab. 3 straight made cuts. I mean, basically top 30. Let's just round it. Top 30s. But, at 7,000, I think that's fine. The dude can hit the ball too, but he's not as long as some of these other guys or whatever off the tee, that is. So anyway, I think Tyler Duncan at 7,000 would be my last guy there.
Yeah, Stuard for sure at 74, 5th last year, 3 straight made cuts since we returned, 20th last week. No problem, Brian Stuard at 74. I do like Will Gordon at 73. Chalky Will Gordon, probably not so much, but I think there's a lot of upside there with Gordon. Mark Hubbard, going right back to Hubbard at 7,200. I've been talking about him when he's been the 6K. He's been a nice value. 3 straight made cuts. He can do birdies and bunches too. So I'm all about Mark Hubbard at $7,200 as a lower price play. I like the Stanley call at 71. Definitely a guy, if you're talking about iron play, he's one of the better iron players when he's locked in. So I could see that being an option. I got T Dunks at 7,000 on the list as well. And then Taylor Gooch at 7,000. Finished 17th there last year, coming off back-to-back missed cuts, 43rd at the Schwab. He was playing great golf. He's been just blowing up on Fridays, it feels like. 2 weeks ago was blew up on Thursday, played great on Friday and just missed the cut. He's got massive birdie upside. So at $7,000 in a GPP, he's got that boomer bust type play that I don't hate when you're dipping down there. Like if you can go, anywhere the Hubbard, Stanley's, Gooch, Duncan, you like Uihlein. If you can hang out down there instead of dipping into the 6K, you might be a little happier about life in the end. Just my 2 cents on things. There might be a few guys down here as we discussed, but 6Ks, it's quite murky, Jesse. Who are you liking in the 6K range? I
think there's several guys down here that are playable. How much I'll play him, I don't know. But yeah. Jason Duffner at 6,800. He did miss the cut here last year, but is made both of his starts since the restart, or made both of his cuts since the restart. He did have one really bad Sunday where he fell way back at the Charles Schwab, but at the Heritage, played well. 77 DraftKings points that week, and at $6,500 there. So his ownership's been low. I'd imagine it'll stay low. especially down here at the $6,800 range. 3 more $6,800 guys I like: Griffin, Wolf, Harry Higgs. Wolf especially. I feel like his this price is bad in this field. He did miss the cut at this golf course last year, and has 2 straight missed cuts on tour. He did make the cut at the Charles Schwab. Not been playing like the best golf in the world, but last year he missed the cut here and then won the next week. So he can do it. $1,600, I'm going to take a chance on it. Higgs, I talk about him all the time. Lanto Griffin, he can bomb it off the tee. He's never played here. But at $6,800, I'd take a chance on him. Moving down a little bit, Sam Ryder, another guy who bombs it off the tee. Missed the cut here last year, $6,500 this year. Coming off a missed cut at the Travelers, did make the cut at the Heritage. I think he's worth a shot. And if you're way down here at the bottom, I got a guy for you, $6,000, Ryan Brim. He's especially for the price, he's decently high up on my Fantasy Labs model. He is $6,000. I don't have any starts for him since the Puerto Rico Open, but
Ryan Brim, he finished 18th on the Korn Ferry last week.
There you go. So coming off a solid 18th place on the Korn Ferry, 35th in the Puerto Rico Classic. I mean, there's other starts way back in the day. So I think Ryan Brim at $6,000 is playable.
So Ryan Brim and Bryson DeChambeau, you heard it here first. Pair them up and rock and roll. No, I was kidding.
I mean, you want to see how much that gives you? That leaves you with, most price, min price, $8,000 per.
You could do some damage there. You could do some serious damage there. So that's not the worst thing. When I'm talking 6K range, I'm looking at Ryan Armour at 6,900. 6th place last week, 74th the week before, but he's made 2 straight cuts. 46th here last year, so you can go with Armour there. I think Lanto is very interesting at 6,800. Finished 24th last week, which is good to see after a couple missed cuts. If he can, because he can bomb it, so give him a little more room to land and then start playing a birdie fest. I think Lanto can be very interesting at 68. Windham Clark's another guy that can bomb it, and he can get that putter going at times. Finished 17th here last year. Missed cut, 64th missed cut since the return. So it's been very inconsistent. GPP at 66. Does have some upside. Wesley Bryan has been playing really good the last 2 weeks. 24th and 68. Really, really good iron player. He's $6,500. He could run hot if you get things going. He doesn't bomb it as much as the others, but a really good iron game coming off of back-to-back made cuts. Wesley Bryan at 65. What do you think of your boy Teets at 64? Played well last year. 35th last year.
I'm with you. He played well last week, too. I think he at least top 20 last week. What did he do?
36. I think he fell down on Sunday.
He must have had a shitty-ass Sunday then. I mean, wind was blowing, I think, 30, 40 miles an hour. I don't know if you were watching the coverage, but there was a slight rain delay. I turned it over there for a minute from the PGA Tour, and I just turned it completely off because I knew DJ was going to win. So, yeah, I mean, if you want to take a chance with Teaser, I always root for him, so.
Yep. And then the last guy I'll mention, he missed the cut here last year, but 41st last week, 37th, 56. So he's made 3 straight cuts between the PGA and the Korn Ferry. He was 6K last week, and he got it done. But Hank Lebioda at 6,200, another guy that can birdie quite a bit if you have to go super cheap. There's a lot of interesting stars and scrubs approach. Like, you can make cases for a lot of dudes down here. It's dicey, but you can talk yourself into it if you need to. I'm just going to try to avoid it for the most part if I can. That's for sure. All right, recapping things real quick, Jesse. 10K and above, not named Bryson DeChambeau. Where are you going?
Hideki
it is. I'll go with I'm going to go Vic Hovland, but he's probably going to be chalk. 9K, one guy.
I'm going to say Scotty Schaeffler.
I'm going to go Kevin Na. Let's do that. Let's get weird here. 8K range. Let's go with 2.
I'll say Poston and Doc Redman.
I'll go Poston and Glover. So we're on the same boat there. If Poston burns me again, so be it. I'm going right back. He's really good golfer to just fade after a miscut. I'm back on that one. 7,500 and above. Let's go with one guy.
Man, McNeely.
Yeah, I like that McNeely call. You took McNeely. I'll take Bramlett. I'll go Bramlett. 7,000 to 74. Go 2.
So people call him Bram Goat. You know it, don't you?
Oh, really? I did not know
Yeah,
that. That's outstanding because Stu Goat withdrew this week, so now I can go Bram Goat. We're good.
7,400 Stuard would be 1A, and then 1B. I would go with Peter Uline.
I'm going to go Hubbard and T Dunks. Those will be my two guys in that range. And give me, I guess, two 6K guys.
Wolf and Ryan Brim.
I'll go with that Wolf is an interesting call. I was looking at that earlier. I don't hate that at all. I'll go Armour and let's go Armour and Wesley Bryan, but trying to avoid. All right, we had another listener question from Saul Goodman in the chat. Saul Goodman. He asked, I'll actually pull it up and read it properly so I don't screw it up. But he asked us basically our cash and GPP philosophies. And the question was, mainly for players new to PGA, explain cash and GPP strategy as well as contest selection. So when you're doing cash versus GPP, what's your differentiating factors there?
Let's just preface this with saying that's not the Twitter Saul Goodman.
Yes, different Saul Goodman.
So if you're new to PGA, welcome. I'm sorry you found us. But the main difference, so like I always go more balanced with cash game lineups. I think you'll agree with that, Bubba. Yeah. As far as a cash game goes, I'm looking for guys who, in my opinion, the way I look at them is I want two combinations. I want good recent form and good course history. And if they have both of those, I consider them a cash game or a quote unquote safe play, knowing full well that there's nothing safe about anything on the PGA Tour. These guys can miss a cut or win every single week. Every one of these guys can. Well, most of them. Well, some of them can win every week on the PGA Tour.
Most can make the cut.
Most can make the cut. Yeah. So that's my main thing with cash. GPP, typically it's a guy who has good recent form, bad course history, or good course history, especially if a guy has good course history and bad recent form, he's a big time GPP play in my opinion. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Cash games, I usually go more balanced. I usually hang out in like the 7,500 to 9,500 range. I do a lot of just all 8K guys if it's the right week. You can go cheaper if you have to. I try to always avoid 6K players in cash. I'll say that right out the gate because they're usually not safe for an obvious reason. And as you said, there's no such thing as a safe play, but you get what we're saying in that regard. Guys that are going to be cut makers. You don't worry about guys trying to win it all when you're playing GPP. In theory, I tell people, can you visualize this guy making it top 10, top 5? Like you need to be able to visualize this guy winning a tournament to have your chance to do it. In cash, they can all finish 65th and you don't care. Like they just all have to get through. And
most
the other
weeks,
thing, yeah, most weeks, true, most weeks, unless it's just pure craziness.
Right.
The other thing I'll say for cash, I usually rarely ever care about ownership. Some guys worry about that in cash. Some guys, like literally, you can have an 85% cash guy, and that's fine. Especially as smart as people are starting to get in this PGA game, there's a lot of good chalk. Like obviously, like I said, Bryson Simple, Victor Hovland is a phenomenal cash game play this week. He's probably going to be like 70% owned. Or Sanjay, one of the two of them is going to be so chalky. Both good cash game plays. So that's kind of the way I look at it there. And then GPP, yeah, take more risk. You don't have to play all risk. You just need to be different in one or two areas. That's one thing to keep in mind. And
it's where you got to play the ownership game though too.
Yes, definitely. And we've seen it big time in recent weeks with like such deep fields. We've talked about it time and time again. And that's why we try to give you a couple pivots here and there. Like we talked about, maybe Glover's a great pivot off of Redmond, stuff like that. Both super talented guys, close price range, but you'll get a nice ownership difference there. How do you do contest selection? Prefer contest selection?
So, obviously the flashy lights are the big time GPPs, but they're very difficult to win. So if I'm new and trying to build up, I would put at least 75% of what I'm playing in cash and then try to roll 25% in some GPPs, play some small single entry, $1, $2, even quarter GPPs if you want to. And, if you do want to start mass entering, I think there's a 10 cent where it's 150 max. I think there's definitely a quarter that's 150 max. And then there's also the $3 20 max. If you're going to play those, you really should max them out if you're going to put any lineups in there. Otherwise, stick to the 3 maxes. I know me and you talk about that all the time as far as our context selection. We still stick with the 3 maxes. Now we're, at a different price level than somebody who's starting brand new. And even you and I play it, at different levels as far as that goes, but we still have the same strategy as far as if we're going to be in a tournament with people, we want it to be single entry or 3 entry because we're not 150 max guys. Mm-hmm. And we'll tell you that up front.
Yeah, and I got no problem with like the 20 max. 150, I just can't wrap my head around doing those. But like 20 maxes, I've done those for baseball, NASCAR, stuff like that. So I can get that, get your player pool. I know Dirework and Kevin were talking about it, the cascading core in the Slack chat. That's something you can check out for sure. I prefer the 3 max and the singles. Get like a core that you trust, and you can have some really, really strong goes of it. Sometimes it doesn't work out so well, but you can definitely have some strong goes of it there. So I'm with you in that regards. But yeah, if you're new, you just want to dip your toe in, get comfortable building cash lineups, get comfortable doing cheaper, GPP tournaments like you're talking about. It's definitely something I'd look at. And feel free to ask us questions anytime.
Whatever you got to do, whatever you do to put your cash lineup in a GPP.
Yes, always put your cash lineup.
I don't care if it's a damn quarter. Put it in a GPP.
Yep, that is 100% correct.
You do not want to just cap your winnings at whatever you're going to double up at.
Yeah, because if it runs hot, you're going to be very angry.
And it often does.
Yes. Usually it's my best lineup every week. Usually. Yeah. So it just goes to show you. So if you are playing GPP this week, Jesse, what are 3 guys you'd like to start your lineup with?
So Bryson would be a number 1. Hell, we already mentioned this. Brian Brim at 6,000. So we've got 8,000 left there, and I would put a guy, Will Gordon rates that really well in my model. Doc Redmond does too. So a couple of guys there. Scott Stallings, like we talked about before.
Yeah,
so
and Brim,
a few options for you.
And Brim alone is going to make you so unique that you can almost you could have Redmond and Bryson and it won't matter.
Right.
So you're good there. That's kind of stuff people need to realize. Like you can literally one guy can differentiate it all for you. Outside of the Bryson, which is I think a phenomenal play, I think a threesome I like is Nog, Glover, and Poston. I think that all has upside there. Guys I could all see finishing high, potentially winning. So that'd be a 3-way I'd like to start with. What are 3 cash game builders for you?
I think Fein would be okay for cash. I want to say Hadwin. He's just never played here before, but I feel like he's a bit of a safer, quote unquote, safer play. And then somebody like Schaeffler too at 9,000. I know he missed the cut last week, but I feel like he'll bounce back this week and he makes enough birdies to really help you out.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. I think either Hovland or Sunjay, it's going to be tough to play both money-wise. One of the 2 of them with Sabbatini and Redmond is not a bad start. Like you could definitely have some cash game starts there. It might leave you a little empty-handed, but you can get into the 7K range and still make some noise there. All right, it's going to be a wide-open week. We talked about the leaderboard last year. Any picks to win not named Bryson at 7-1?
What's the odds
he's literally the best play.
What's the odds on Hatton?
Hatton is 16-1.
Man, that's really short on him, dude. It's a tough week.
Very tough.
I would probably put a couple $100 on Ryan Brim to win.
Maybe top 10, top 20. Right now he's, oh my god, he's holy shnikes. Let me double check this. He's 400-1. I had to double check to make sure I was reading that properly. He's 400-1.
You got to put $1 on that.
Yeah, or like I said, if he top 20, it's still probably like 150-1 or something. You could have some fun with that.
Yeah, I don't know what the odds would be, but yeah, dude,
it's a tough week to pick winners.
Yeah, I don't have a great feel for it, but because I feel like it's Bryson week, but
yeah, it feels like Bryson week. Like Sunjay's 22, it's not horrible. Like Poston's 40, Nas 40, Redmond's 45. Those aren't horrible. If you go deeper, if you believe in guys like Noren, he's 66. That's got some appeal to it, but you're going to get some long sides. Like Lashley, like we said, Monday qualified. So Brim might not be that crazy. Lashley is probably more than 400-1. is stuff like that. Gordon's 110-1, Hubbard's 110-1, Wolf is 110. That could be an interesting one, actually. Wolf actually has some validity in this one. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun week. Any final thoughts for the listeners about the Rocket Mortgage Classic?
I don't, man. Hop in the Slack and ask us some questions if you got them, and I'll be in and out of there all week.
Yep, should be a fun week. Interesting field, Birdie Fest. Hope everybody enjoys the tilt on Friday and actually has a tilt this weekend. So that'll be good. But if not, follow Jesse on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods. I'm at BDM Trick, the podcast at Always Press DFS. Give us a rating and review on iTunes, and we're back on YouTube. Catch you guys next week.